and emanates within you, because I think this year there's one scripture that people keep quoting all the time, and I want to quote it here real quick before we even begin the message. It says that my people perish for a lack of knowledge. And we see a lot of times that people in today's world and in situations that we're going through, we see people perishing. We see people that are just going into church, and they're going in through the motions. They're going in through the things. We got people who are into worship, and they just worshiping, and they're wanting, I guess the term I'm looking for is they want that emotional high. People are just searching for an emotional high. They don't understand. They don't want to understand. They don't want to knowledge of God. And see, the thing about it is that when that is taken away, when it comes a time that only is between you and God, you don't have the music. Is God still meeting with you there? Are you still deciding to meet with him there? See, that's when you know that it's true worship and not just an emotional hype. Because true worship, you don't need the music. True worship, you don't need the people singing behind you or the audience in front of you. The true worship is that where you just lay prostrate before God, and you just bear all, and you're allowing the worship to a hymnal to come out of your mouth. Some of the greatest songs, some of the greatest worship I think we've ever had, and ladies will attest to this, some of the greatest worship we've ever had has been on a whim type worship. Has been that where it really wasn't a song, but people just started singing. And it was just no specific song. It was just, they were just singing praises to God. Because if you listen to a lot of the music in today's church, which I listen to a little bit of music here and there, but in listening to it, you can hear it, well, we're just barely hanging on. God, please help me. I'm about ready to lose my mind. Oh God, please, and it's like we're glorifying the fact that we're just barely hanging on. And that it's just like, I look at it as like Jesus walking on the water when Peter came out to him. We don't focus in on Peter taking 3 steps, walking on the water as Jesus did. We don't focus on it, but we're going to focus on him crying out for help and him barely starting to sink. And that's what we want to focus on. I focus on the belief of Peter being able to step out of the boat. I focus on, if you would have believed this, and this is how I believe it, honestly. I think if everybody would have stepped out in the boat with Peter, I think Peter would have made it to Jesus. I really do. I think when you go out individually, just think about this. When you start something by yourself, you're out doing something, you're alone yourself. I mean, it's hard sometimes to continue because you feel like you're the only person that's doing this. But when you've got people that come alongside you to do it, and I'm telling you, it's so much authority in numbers. And I think if everybody, at least one person, John, could have stepped out with him, I think it would have been giving him enough courage to continue, to be able to sit there and say, you know what, I'm not out here by myself, even though I see the journey and I see the destination, I see this, but you have that one person that would have stepped out with you. But today we're going to focus on this, and this is a question that's always been brought to me, and always I love to think about, and I ask God constantly about, because you understand, there were 12 apostles, and I'm going to slow down, I promise, but I'm trying to get this across here. There were 12 apostles, okay? But not only that, but there were thousands of people that followed Jesus. I mean, he fed the 4,000. He fed the 5,000. Okay, everybody understands that it just wasn't the 12 people that followed him, but yet it was the multitude that followed him. Okay, but even that, okay, out of the thousands of people that followed him, there were 12 he chose. And out of those 12, he chose 3 people. And those 3 people had 3 times in the Bible, I think it was more than 3, but the Bible records only 3 times, where they did something greater than the other 9 did. They witnessed, and it was the same 3 people. Those same 3 people had the Mount of Transfiguration. Okay, those same 3 people went in to see a woman or a child who was raised by the dead. I mean, these same 3 people went to the Garden of Gethsemane and went forward with him, while the other 9, or other 8, because that was back when Judas had left. The other ones stayed behind. Those same 3, and you always ask, because that is my thing. Okay, I'll just be honest with you. Okay, I don't think there's enough honesty from the pulpits, enough honesty from the preachers that want to talk. But let me just talk to you for a minute before we get into the scriptures, because I'm going to read the scriptures. I'm going to, if we get finished, then great. If not, I'll finish it next week. But the honesty in which, okay, who do you want to be? Do you want to be part of the multitude, part of the 9, or part of the 3? Many are called, but few are chosen. There's a lot of people that are in the multitude that want the bread and want the fish, but there was only the 12 that served it. That in their hands the bread multiplied. In their hands the fish multiplied. Jesus blessed it, but it was in their hands. Okay, so that's what we have to, one thing we have to understand. But, or do you want to be part of that 9 that just had to hang back and watch the other 3 go forward? Or do you want to be part of that 3 group of John, Peter, and James? Those 3 that witnessed, especially the Mount of Transfiguration, where they sit there and witness Jesus revealing who he truly was. And just shown about him. And then here goes Moses and Elijah walking forward saying, wow, it is great for us to be here. And then after everything gets finished, Jesus looks at him and says, don't tell nobody what you've seen up here. I mean, that right there would have struck me down. I'm sitting there thinking like, wait a minute, I seen this great vision in front of me. This great thing that witnessed, that changed, I guarantee it changed their life when they seen Moses and Elijah. And they knew who they were. They didn't have to introduce themselves. Hi, I'm Moses. Hi. It's just like they knew who they were when they walked out. And you're sitting there telling me now I can't tell nobody? I mean, see, some of the greatest things that happened to the 3 that they couldn't say nothing until after Jesus rose from the dead. Okay, and you're sitting there, and okay, I'm just being honest with you. God would really have to sew my lips shut, like he did to John the Baptist, his father. He couldn't speak. He said his name is going to be, he said because of his doubt, he couldn't say it because he's afraid of speaking something wrong out. So because God made his lips shut up, he couldn't say nothing when he came out. He would have had to done that to me, because I'm telling you what, if I seen Elijah and Moses walk out, I'm sorry. Let me tell you how great this is. But anyway, what I want to focus on today is knowing Jesus. Okay, and there's 3 scriptures that we're going to use. I'm going to use them real quick, and I'm not going to focus in on these first 2, but I'm just going to read them for the sake. Okay. In John chapter 4, verse number 7, it says this: there cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Jesus saith unto her, give me to drink. Because this was noon. Okay, his apostles came, they were tired, it was hot outside, and they were sitting there, and the apostles went forward to go get some food for him. Jesus sat there by himself. Here comes the Samaritan woman who they're not supposed to talk to, come to the well to draw water, okay? And now watch, we're going to focus on this real quick. For the disciples were gone away unto the city to buy meat. Then saith the woman of Samaria, give unto me, how is it that thou being a Jew askest to drink of me, where I am a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealings with Samaritans. Jesus answered and said unto her, this is what I want to focus on, watch this right here. If thou knowest, okay, watch this. This is what Jesus says, okay? This is the whole point of the blessing that's going to come down for this woman. Okay, the whole blessing in which starts with us. How many people want to live a blessed life? How many people want to be part of the 3? How many people want to see the most miraculous things done on this earth and be part of them and allowing God to use them in such a great, mighty way? If you don't want to be that and you just want to barely make it to heaven, if that is your belief, I want you to be part of the multitude. But I'm sorry, I can't be that anymore. I've done that for so long. Even as a pastor, I have done that so long where I was so afraid to go out of the multitude until all of a sudden when I started this church of Passion Ecclesia, understanding the passion that it takes in order to be the called out ones. Okay, so here he goes. He says, watch this. If thou knewest the gift of God, just a gift, the gift of salvation, the gift that comes from the Father himself. If you knew just the gift of God and who it is that saith to thee. Okay, that's a very big statement right there. Jesus had to open up with this statement. He said, look at this. He said, if you only knew or believed, understood of the gift of God, if you understood or know who it is that who is asking. Okay, you just understand that that's where it begins with, what it begins with, knowledge. Okay, salvation, what does salvation begin with? It don't begin with emotional hype. It don't begin with an emotional, oh my God, I feel so guilty. That's what draws you to it, but that's not salvation. Salvation is the knowledge of the gift that was given to us by God. Okay, that's the knowledge. Okay, that's why a lot of times when Holy Spirit starts to convict, what does he do? He doesn't say, he leads you to Jesus. He leads you to the understanding that you are a sinner in need of salvation grace. He understands, he feeds you knowledge so that you will not perish. He leads you to Jesus. Jesus, on the other hand, is the bridge. He says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes unto the Father but by me. He is the way to the Father. And when we go to the Father, salvation has taken place. Why? Because in that we realize in order to be at the wedding supper of the Lamb, we just don't show up, but we wear the gowns like I was talking about last week. We wear the wedding garments. We just don't show up as we are, but we understand that I'm going there not to just feast, to receive, but I'm going there because I want to be part of the knowledge of the gift and the knowledge of he who is asking, which is Jesus. Give me to drink. Thou would ask of him, and he would have given thee living water. That's a great statement right there, but I don't have time to go into it because we're focusing on knowing him. The woman saith unto him, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence then hast thou this living water? Okay, and it's just so funny because she even quoted it as living water. Okay, now you have to understand something here. Okay, if you sat there and said, give me a drink, you want some water, you're not going to call it living water. Okay, if you're going to a well to draw water out of the well, you're going to say, hey, you know what, I'm thirsty, give me a drink of that water. But when he referred to it, he referred to it as living water. And all of a sudden, she's trying to rationalize, wait a minute, not only are you saying water, but you're saying living water. Okay, so how are you going to get, see, again, it focuses in on what he said. Watch this. Okay, hold on. I'm going to breeze through this because I want to get to John chapter 14. Okay, art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us this well, and drank thereof himself, and his children, and his cattle? Jesus answered and said unto her, Whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. Whoever goes back to the old way of doing things will always thirst. If you're always counting on the way we always used to do things, I think everything needs to be examined every time we meet with God. Okay, if you're not changeable or what they do with clay, they mold the clay. If you're not going to be flexible, then you will break. And that's why Jesus says you put new wine into new wineskins. Why? Because the new wineskins are flexible enough to change the feel of them. Okay. Jesus answered and said, Whosoever drinketh of this water will thirst again. But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall be never thirst. And oh gosh, there's so much into that right there. I really would love to cover that. I shall give to him, okay, it's not just shall never thirst. But see, that word never, they've shortened it because it makes, oh gosh. Okay, let me just go over this real quick. I'm going to have to do it, okay? What it means is that whoever asks of him shall be able to be part of a never-ending world of no thirst. Okay, but they shortchanged it. When they were writing it out, it just doesn't mean never, but it's be part of a never-ending kingdom where there is no thirst. Okay, so it's not that you will just never thirst again, but if I will give him shall be into a kingdom that never has thirst, but the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water. He's speaking of Jesus again, obviously. Jesus, a well of water springing up to everlasting life. The woman saith unto him, Sir, give me this water that I thirst not, neither come hither to draw. Jesus said unto her, Go, call thy husband, and come hither. The woman answered and said unto him, No husband. Jesus said unto her, I'm going to try to get down to verse number 20. Thou hast well said, I have no husband. For thou hast 5 husbands, and whom thou hast now is not thy husband. In this saidest thou truly. The woman saith unto him, Sir, I perceive that thou art a prophet. Our fathers worshipped in this mountain, and you say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship. Jesus said unto her, Woman, believe me. Okay, believe me. Again, there goes that believing in me. Okay, understand this. Everything begins with the belief of what you believe about Jesus. Okay, believe me, the hour cometh. There's a time that's coming when you shall neither in this mountain nor in Jerusalem worship the Father. Yea, worship ye know what not. You know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. But the hour cometh when now is, and now is, okay, because he's there, now is when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father seeketh such to worship him. God is spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. Okay, turn to John chapter 11, verse number 1. Now a certain man was sick, named Lazarus, and in Bethany, the town of Mary, and her sister Martha. And it was Mary which has anointed the Lord with ointment, and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Therefore his sisters sent unto him, saying, Lord, behold, whom thou lovest is sick. When Jesus heard that the sickness is not unto death, but the Lord, that the glory of God, that is the Son of God, might be glorified thereby. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. I mean, he loved these people. I'm telling you what. Okay. When he had heard therefore that he was sick, he abode 2 days still in the same place where he was. Then after that he saith to his disciples, Let's go unto Judea again. His disciples say unto him, Master, the Jews are late to sought to stone thee, and goest thou hither again? Jesus answered, Are there not 12 hours in a day? If any man walks in the day, he stumbleth not, because he seeth the light of the world. But if a man walketh in the night, he stumbleth, because there is no light in him. These things said he. After that he saith unto them, Our friend Lazarus sleepeth, but I go unto him to wake him up out of sleep. Then he saith unto the disciples, Lord, if he sleep, he shall do well. Howbeit Jesus spoke of his death, but they thought that he had spoken of the taking rest in sleep. Then saith Jesus unto them plainly, Lazarus is dead. I am glad for your sake that I was not there, to intent you may believe. Nevertheless, let us go unto him. Then saith Thomas, which is called Didymus, unto the fellowship, Let us also go, that we may die with him. Okay, see, because this is what he's talking about here. Then, just for time's sake, I'm sorry, you want to turn to John chapter 14, verse number 1. John 14, verse number 1. Because this is what I want to talk about, okay? Because this is the apostles again. These are, see, if you understand, when they were sitting there talking to them, he sat there and they were supposed to be the ones that knew Jesus. They were supposed to be the ones that trusted him. And this is the point that I want to get at, okay? Because Jesus had to perform the miracles and the signs and the wonders that he did. He performed them for very multiple reasons. It wasn't just to heal somebody. Because, see, we think this, okay, that there's a blessing that's coming down our way, that there's something that God had promised, and because it doesn't happen when we think it should happen, then we all of a sudden we start to doubt. So
Doubting Thomas.
Right. We start to doubt. Why? Because it didn't happen like we thought it was going to happen. Okay, see, these disciples here knew Jesus. They followed Jesus. There was years that they followed him and they believed in him. They left their nets, they left their families, they left their lands, they left everything. And Peter said that, right? Because when he was out of the talking to the rich man, he sat there and he says, look, he says, if this rich man can't make it, then we've given up everything to follow you. What's in it for us? He said, if you lost everything, I'll give it back to 100-fold. But don't follow me because of the 100-fold. Follow me because you're doing it for the will of the Lord. Okay? So these people who knew Jesus, then when he got to Mary and Martha, what was that? What did they say to Mary and Martha, just for time's sake? What was it he said to them? He sat there and he says, look, you doubting me. I am the resurrection. I am the life. He said, I know he'll be raised again in the last days. He said, no. He said, and let's say this, it pained him so great that these are the people that he said he loved. And what were they doing? They were doubting who he was. Did they truly know him as Jesus or as the Son of God that come to save the world? Because he looked at him and he sat there and he cried, he wept over it. Not because he was weeping over Lazarus dying, because he knew he was going to be raised from the dead. He wept because of these are the people that he loved. He said, well, just show me where he's at. I'm going to prove something to you here. The beginning of everything has to begin with the knowledge or of the belief of what you believe about him. Okay, John chapter 14, verse number 1. Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. Okay, he's talking to the apostles. This is verse number 14, because in 16 to 17, that's where they have the Last Supper. 17, we have the Garden of Gethsemane. 18, we have where he's dying, and he's going to die on the cross, and he goes on from this point. So this is the point of his end of his ministry, where he's trying to tell his apostles something. They've witnessed all these things. Okay, there's these three people that have witnessed all these things, and now all of a sudden Jesus is trying to tell them. These are the people who are supposed to know him. Okay. In Luke, okay, and I love how it says it in the Passion Translation and all the other different translations. I read 5 different translations on it this morning, and it says, "Do not give into the fear in your heart. Do not let the fear come into your heart. Do not give into fear that you're about ready to fear." Why? Because you believed in God. Now you're also supposed to believe in me. Okay, and I love this because watch this, it goes on farther. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. Now, it's not talking about salvation, or not talking about going into heaven. What it's talking about is, see, everybody loves that word mansion, okay? Because, everybody loves how does a rich man show he's rich? I mean, seriously, how does a man who has multi-millions or billion-dollar houses, you look at his house.
Material.
Yeah, you go into his house, and all of a sudden, man, you go in this big 5,000, 6,000 square foot house, and he's like, "Oh, you want to spend the night? Yeah, that's fine. Go to the east wing over here. I got 2 bedrooms over there. And you got your own bathroom. Hey, I tell you what." But what it's saying is this: it's not a mansion, but it's what I'm doing is I'm preparing a place, a dwelling place that you can remain. He said, because you don't understand what we're getting ready to happen. What I'm getting ready to do is the place I'm preparing for you. The reason I got to go is I could prepare a way for you to be in a standing point. Okay, watch this. A place, a standing point for you. A place that you can stand inside. Okay, and if I go and prepare this place for you to stand, I will come again and I will receive you into myself. Okay, so watch this. Now, I love how he explains this. Myself, where I am, there you may be also. Not in future, but where I am, you will always be there. Why? Because I'm just like he said this. Okay, let me read later on. I'll explain it here in a minute. And whither I go, you know, and the way you know. Okay, there it goes back into knowing now. Watch this. Thomas said unto him, Lord, we know not whither thou goest. And it's Thomas. We just talked about him. It's Thomas. Here we go. We know not the way. Whither thou goest? And can we not know? How can we know the way? We don't even know where you're going. Okay. Jesus said unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. If you had known me, you should have known my Father also. From henceforth you know him, and you have seen him. Philip said unto him, Lord, show us the Father, and it is sufficient for us. See, this goes back to what I'm trying to talk about is knowledge. We talked about this last week, okay? And what it's talking about is the fact of knowing Jesus enough, or having enough faith and confidence in Jesus, that when he says this, when you have seen me, you have seen the Father. Okay? No other explanation needed to be said. Okay? The knowledge of knowing him, of following him for 3 years, over 3 years, you should have known him to a point to where you don't doubt that when he says, hey, look, me and the Father are one. If you've seen me, you've seen my Father. You know, hey, I understand that now. Why? Because we've seen all the signs and the wonders and the miracles and the things that he has done, the things he was going to do, the walking on the water, the feeding of the thousands. There was just too many things to mention. On the Mount of Transfiguration, there were so many things that Jesus had done to show who he was, enough to his apostles especially. I understand we call him Doubting Thomas. I understand that Philip is not one of the main ones that wrote all these different things that were going on. That we understand there's 3. But we don't see nothing from those 3 because I think they understood Jesus who he was. Jesus said unto him, I have been with them so long time. With you, and yet hast you not known me, Philip? See, that goes back to the multitude. See, there are people... Honestly, now take a look at this. There are people who say they've been saved since a young age. Okay, anybody ever ran into somebody who's in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and you start talking about God, and then you ask them, you say, are you saved? And what do they say? I've been saved from a young boy. Okay, well, great. Well, then that means you should have grown enough to know. But yet, they not even own a wavelength of talking about who Jesus is. And that's what he's sitting there saying. He sits there and says, look, he said, I've been with you so long, and yet you still don't know me. You still don't understand me. Philip, thou hast seen me, hast seen the Father. And how sayest thou, show us the Father? Did you not know, watch, believest thou not that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me? The words that I speak unto you, I speak not of myself, but of the Father that dwelleth in me. He doth the works. Okay, who does the works? Okay, let's get this finished here real quick. Okay, who doing the works? The Father through Jesus. What was Jesus able to do? He was able to do what he did. Why? Because he believed that the Father was in him and using him. Yes, he is the begotten Son of God. Yes, he is part of the Trinity that came down. I'm not discounting that. But the Bible says he gave that up to come down to live as us. Why? How is he able to do the things he can do? Why? Because the Father is in him. When he looked at his apostles, he said, look, and he says the same thing about us, right? He says, we are the what? The image of God. Paul said this numerous times in Corinthians. He sat there and he says, he said, I look through a glass darkly, but when the knowledge comes of who I am, then all of a sudden I'll be able to see plainly. When we understand who we are of the Father and Jesus in us. That's why I love the beginning part of this. When he sat there and he says, look, you know the way. You know the truth. You know who I am. He said, I'm going to prepare a spot. The only way that we have access in order to go into the kingdom is because Jesus, being the sacrificial lamb that he is called to be, who shed his blood on that cross, allowing me to be able to take that blood and apply it to my life, and believing who he is and who the Father is in him and who he is in me, allowing me to have a place in the kingdom where he is, so am I. Because in 1 John, he says the same thing. As Jesus is, so am I. Where is Jesus at now? Sitting at the right hand of the Father inside of us. Standing there, waiting in order for us to be like we talked about before. Knowing the gift of God and knowing him who has asked us to drink. He comes to us. You guys understand, we serve God in such a way a lot of times that we're doing it because we're going to get something out of it. You know, it's to me the point of being able to understand who he is in me enough to where whether I get something out of it or not, I'm still going to be part of the 3 and not part of the 9. What separated those 3? I think what separated those 3 was the belief of who he was greater than the other 9. I think they could accept it a whole lot easier. I mean, do you believe right now that humanity, and this is a question for everybody, who in here believes that humanity right now knows God fully? Anybody? No. Everybody shaking their head? No. We don't. If you can sit here and tell me right now that your life does not need to be examined, your belief in God does not need to be examined, that your faith in what you believe inside of Jesus does not need to be examined, if the way we are doing things does not need to be examined, because I'm telling you, there are blessings and promises that God has been promising me that is just like Lazarus. Okay, we got this AI stuff that's coming out. It makes everybody, oh, it's supposed to make your life so easy. Oh, these computers are supposed to make your life so easy. I'm always still shaking her head. She don't understand this new generation of the AI. It bugs her. She'll get pull her computer out and get so flustered because she's trying to work the computer, and then she hands it to me to do it. It's this concept of knowing that what I am doing. Okay, let's go on. Hold on. Let's just go on. Okay, Jesus said unto him, I have been here so long time with you, and yet thou hast not known me. Philip, he that has seen me has seen the Father. How sayest thou, then show us the Father? Believest thou not that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me? Do you not believe this? Do you not even close to the words that I speak unto you, speak not of myself, but of the Father. Thou dwelleth in me, and he does the works. Believe me that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me, or else at least, watch this now, or at least believe me for the very work's sake. Not the sakes of his works, but you must first at least believe that this 3.5 years has not been for nothing. That the works that you're going to do from this point, you have to first at least believe me for that to take place. See, that's what this whole thing was about. Okay, watch this. Verse number 12. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that doeth, watch this, believeth on me or in me, the works that I do shall he do also. And greater works than these shall he do. Because why? I go unto my Father. Okay, see, we understand, we love that, we quote that scripture. Hey, we can do greater works than Jesus did on this earth. Why? Why are we able to do that? It's not just because he sat there and said, go do it. My people perish for a lack of knowledge, the not wanting to know. The church has got away from discipling people. And I love worship. Don't get me wrong, I really do. But I've been in some worship ceremonies that sometimes, they got the lights flashing, the big light show, the smoke that rolls down, and all this other stuff. They got some great singers. I got the great musicians, and all that is good. But for some reason, every time, and this is just me, this is not thus saith the Lord, I understand that. This is me. Sometimes I look at that and I see some of these concerts. Okay, it's just like, take a look at the Super Bowl. Okay, they have a Super Bowl halftime show, and the Super Bowl's getting ready to come up in February. That they come down and they got these singers up there singing, and you see these people down there just worshiping at the feet of these singers. I'm just sometimes it's just I'm not going there because I may upset some people. But I do believe in worship. I do believe in true worship enough to where we're singing how great God is, but not how much of a lack I am. Because believe it or not, if I believe, watch this now, watch this. If I believe in Jesus of who he was in me, if I do that knowing that him and the Father are one, and these are now in me, how can I look at myself and say, I am in lack? Why do we barely hold on? Why? Because we're at the point of Lazarus dying, not knowing that he's still there, that he loves us enough, that he cares for me enough, that the promises are still there, but it's within his time frame that he will bless me. There's been prophesied millions over me. Guess what? I believe it's still there. I have to believe that. I don't give up on the belief or the promises just because it hasn't come when I thought it was going to come. It's going to come. Lazarus is going to be raised from the dead again. Why? When Jesus and the Father show up and they believe that he is there for that purpose. Roll back the stone. Why? Because something's getting ready to walk out. Okay, watch. And whosoever, and I know I'm past 30 minutes, give me another 5 minutes, I'm sorry. And whosoever shall ask in my name, that I will do. This is why, watch this. This is why we can do greater wonders. This is right here. Not just do the things Jesus did, because he made a profound statement, okay? He made this statement of saying, you can do greater things. Why? Why? Than what Jesus did, because Jesus had the Father in him. Okay, I love this. But he said, you can do greater things. Why? Because I go to the Father. Now all of a sudden, not only is he speaking to the Father, Father working through him. Watch this. And whosoever shall ask in my name, that I will do. That the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you shall ask anything in my name, he said it again, anything in my name, I will do it. If you love me, keep my commandments, and I will pray. Okay, I will ask the Father, and he shall give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever. Look at yourself in the mirror, and if you do that and you say, you know what, you lack, then you don't understand the whole concept of God. Okay, yes, I understand that there's those who believe they don't have it all, but that's what the knowledge of God does. When we have the comforter, we have the person coming to live with us forever, to allow us to guide our paths, so that we can do greater miracles on this earth than what Jesus did. Why? Because he is now sitting at the Father. All I have to do is ask, as if I'm in his name, ask him and the Father. So now we have two people that is willing to work through us to allow this to flow out to do greater things on this earth. And he said, they didn't say if only, if this, but yet only this miracle will happen, but only this if you ask this, but you got to ask in this, you got to, no, you got to do this. He said, if you've asked it in my name, I will. But you have to believe enough. You have to believe enough. You have to believe. You have to know. And I wanted to go deeper into chapter 14, and I may do that the next week or two, because there's so much more there than this, but I wanted to hit this part because this is where what's going to take place in this next year is a flood of knowledge that's going to come forward, that when the well of the water starts springing up, it's not going to be just for an emotional height, but what it's going to do is, what is thirst? Okay, watch this, watch this, and then I'll end with this, okay? This is something that God just gave me. I didn't even have this in my notes. What is thirst? What is thirst? Thirst is lacking. That I'm in need of something. Okay? Thirst is that I desire something and I need it. The people in today's world are leaving the churches in droves. Why? Because they're thirsty. They're finding something that wants to fill their thirst. Thirst is lack. He said, but watch this. He said, if you know me and the gift, you will never thirst again. I will put you in a world that will have no ending and no thirst again. That's why I believe this thing that's going to flow out of him is going to be such knowledge upon his word that we're going to start to understand Jesus in such a great way, because there's a point in the Bible where Jesus was speaking to them, and I don't see where he changed what he was saying or how he was saying it, but all of a sudden the apostles look at him and say, wow, we now understand. You're speaking plainly. You're speaking clear. We understand. I mean, I could just see their eyes open up like, oh my God, I understand. I want to be the part of that three, that when Jesus speaks, I have no doubt that it's going to happen. I want to believe in him, that he comes back to receive me into himself, so that where he is, I am also. So where am I at now? Physically, I'm here. But spiritually, I am with him and he is with me. That if you were to open me up inside, you would see no ending at all. You just see mass kingdom, spiritually, obviously. Physically, yeah, if you open me up, you can see a heart and lungs and a bunch of gooey stuff. But you will see spiritually that there is no end to the asking. There is no end to the seeking. There is no thirst anymore inside of him. He stood in the midst of the crowd. Remember that one end of the feast? He said, those who thirst, come to me. Why? Because I'm going to fill your thirst. All you have to do is one thing. Or two things, actually, according to it. Believe in the gift and believe also in me. And when you do that, I'm telling you, and I can't get off this pack. I just need to focus this one more time, and I promise I end with this. We're at 40 minutes. I apologize. But look at this. It comes to that point that I seek God not because of what I can get out of him, but I seek God for what he can get out of me. And once you start realizing, okay, when me and my wife first got married, okay, and just to be honest, we had a rough beginning part of our marriage. Because it's like we were both trying to seek something out of the marriage. But once I realized that I wanted to seek her because of who she was and what she can pull out of me, and she did the same to realize what I could pull out of her, the marriage changed. Once I realized that God is trying to pull out of me so that when he pulls it out of me, this world is going to see the glory of God in ways it never has seen before. More than what Jesus did on this earth. And in greater measure. You think feeding 5,000 was something? Wait till we feed the 10,000. Wait till we feed the 15,000. Wait till we feed the 20,000. Wait till when we can stand up and speak a blessing over people and watch the sick get healed. Watch the mentally ill all of a sudden become real. The blind will see sight. The hearing repaired. But it all takes back to one thing, in believing who he is. Amen.
Amen.